Alright, welcome back to class. So the first thing we're going to go over today is to find a product, and I put that up at the top of the notes as the title for your notes today. And this is a pretty short section. After this section you'll have two homework questions, so it'll be, I guess we'll call it homework part 1, where you have the two questions. And again, going over or finding the product. Now, you don't need to put this on there, but I'm just going to kind of put an arrow here. But to find the product simply means to multiply, because remember, that's exactly what product means. Oh, better put it there. So to multiply. So when we're doing this, just kind of keep that in mind. Now the other thing to keep in mind, and you also don't need to write this, but we're talking about if we already have what we call unit rate. And remember that unit rate is something over 1. For instance, like in the video yesterday, it was how many heartbeats per minute, or how much you pay for a video game per month, that kind of thing. So unit rate is what we're going to start out with when we're working with the product of anything. So what I'm going to do is put two sample problems like you'll see today in your homework and show you what that looks like when you're working it out on paper. So mentally you could do this in your head, but I want to show you both ways so you see what that looks like if you're putting it down on paper. Okay, so let's call this problem number 1, and the problem's going to look like this. So we have 8 hours, and we want to find the product or multiply that by the unit rate, $9 for 1 hour. Okay, so if you're finding the product of this, 8 hours times $9 per hour, what that's really saying is that whatever we're counting costs us $9 an hour, and we just want to know what it's going to cost us if we use that service for 8 hours. Okay, so let's go ahead and rewrite this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it below. Now remember, when we're working with a whole number, if we're comparing it to a fraction, which is what we are with 9 over 1, write that as a fraction also. So 8 hours is actually 8 over 1, right? Okay, and then you're going to multiply the product, right, of 9 over 1. Okay, and you'll notice that I didn't put the units in there. I usually wait and put the units in last because I don't want them getting in the way and kind of convoluting and making it harder what I'm trying to do. So I usually include those at the end again. Okay, so remember with multiplication, all you do is multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom. So we'll do the bottom first. That's easy. 1 times 1 is just 1. And then across the top, 8 times 9, of course, is 72. Okay, so now I'm going to put my units back in there, and the units, of course, were dollars, and then for the hour. Okay, so what this one is simply is going to cost us $72. Okay, and that was for that 8 hours that we over here that we put as 8 over 1. So that's what the answer to this problem ends up being. Okay, so it's really as simple as that. Finding the product is simply multiplying it by a unit rate so you can find what the overall goal is. Okay, so that's problem number 1. Let's look at one more. Okay, here's problem number 2, and this will be our last one for these notes. Okay, let's look at original problem. Let's say 29, in this case, seconds. Okay, and we'll put that over 2. So it's a fraction of seconds, so this whole thing is seconds. And we're going to multiply that by, let's do 60 megabytes. Let's say we're talking about computer speed. Okay, and we're going to say that's 60 over 1 second. Okay, so 60 megabytes per second. So if we're going to find the product of that, it just means that we have to multiply across the top and the bottom. Now, there's a shortcut, and we haven't been using it much, but we need to start implementing that. And we've done it before, you've done it before at least, and that is cross-canceling. So when you're multiplying or dividing fractions, you can cross-cancel, and what it does is it makes it easier so you don't have to simplify as much at the end. Okay, and by cross-canceling, what I mean is that if you can find a common number between these two and these two, okay, you can divide by that common number and reduce that fraction. So with the 29 and the 1, there's nothing we can do there, but with the 2 and the 60, 2 goes into itself 1 time, and it goes into 60 30 times. Okay, so you can see what that does is now instead of doing 29 times 60, it's only 29 times 30. And on the bottom, instead of 2 times 1, it's just 1 times 1. Okay, so start using that cross-canceling method to help you out. Okay, so again, 1 times 1 is just 1. Okay, and then 29 times 30, if you put that in the calculator, you're going to get 870. Okay, and again, that's megabytes. So the answer is 870 megabytes. Okay, so those are 2 sample questions. Remember, when you're finding the product is simply multiplication, and we're using the unit rate when you multiply whatever that is by the unit rate. Okay. And then at the end, if it's not reduced down to a unit rate at the end, then you do need to simplify it. But in both these cases, they are. And on the second one, we actually cross-canceled so that when we did the product, it was a 1 on the bottom. Okay, so the next slide is going to have 2 questions, and you'll have, I'm going to say I'll give you about 5 minutes. That should be all that it takes for everyone to get those 2 questions copied down and completed. Okay, we'll see you at the second section of notes here in a few minutes.